And we're back. It's episode number 16 of the Brain Trust Poker Podcast. And I got a couple of my favorite guys here. We've got the poker prodigy out of Texas, Jess Amby in the house. And we've got the chess wizard from the north, Tom O'Donnell. How you doing?
Hello,
Phyllis, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Jess, I'm going to start with you, man. Jess, your time is limited today. You're always in demand in many places. The family is calling and said, "Hey, we got to get to dinner. We got to get out of here." And Jess said, "Hold on, I got at least got to give my guys at least 30 minutes." So we appreciate that. But for everybody that doesn't know, what are you up to these days? Your poker's on a little bit on the back burner because.
Yeah, a little bit on the back burner. So I'm starting a counseling private practice. I work 4 days a week, and then I'm going to do this on the 5th day, and it's kind of a lot to get it started. And so that's where we are. I mean, I hope to play, I think our last guest, the PLO professor, suggested hey, if you can't play every week, why don't you kind of find take a week off and then just play for that week to kind of get the juices going, because there's no way. Anyways, so I really like that idea.
Cool. Tom, what's new with you?
I'm a sexagenarian.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
Which is a lot less exciting than it sounds.
What's the best part?
There's no good part.
There's no good part. Dude, I turned 38 this year, right? And my body is just absolutely falling apart lately. I just can't believe it. I have to tell you guys. So we were in I've been doing my wife's been coming to jiu-jitsu with me. So I've been doing the super beginner class with her. Wow. And they're doing single leg takedowns. I'm just the partner, hanging out there so she can practice the takedown. She lifts my leg 2 feet off the ground, and my back goes out. I'm just like, I guess I'm tapping to you lifting my leg. I felt so old. And then my neck, we played volleyball last night. I threw my neck out. I got something going on with my knee. My elbow's jacked up. My wrist is, I don't know what's going on with me. I am falling apart, but I guess that's just part of life, huh? So.
Yeah, that's the pace. That's kind of when things fell apart for me. So,
Oh, it's not good news. Well, we got some hands to talk, and Tom, you said you had one. I've got a couple. We've already talked through in the Discord, but
okay, mine is just as I said, it was just a partial hand.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I got a question for you guys. So, okay,
yeah,
I have Ace of Spades, King of Spades on the button. It's 1-2.
Okay.
9 players, various stack sizes. Some people with bigger stacks, some with smaller, and that's going to be important for this question, I think. There are 3 limps.
Okay.
And I make it 15. Would you go bigger?
3 limps at 1-2. You're on the button with Ace King suited.
Yeah.
And you make it 15.
Yeah.
What's the standard open there?
Yeah.
Most people do anywhere from 8, maybe 7 to, with no limpers, 7 to 15. But it really varies by person.
And what is your standard? What is your standard open?
You on the button, I would usually make it probably about 10 with no limpers.
Okay. And what's your stack again? You said, Tom, but I didn't write it down.
Okay, well, there are various stacks, some huge, some small. Mine at the time I was about a little over 300.
Okay. 315. What's the shorty out there? Are any of the limpers really short?
Yeah, there's people with less than 100.
Oh, okay. And multiples that are limping?
Yeah.
How often?
Well, at least one of the people. Well, one of the blinds has say 100, and then one of the limpers has say maybe a little less than 100.
Ooh, how often?
But there's also people with huge stacks. There's one guy that has 1,000.
Okay.
It's a Saturday game.
Yeah. How often do these limpers fold to when somebody kind of bumps it up? How often do they fold?
They're limping to call, right? Like they want.
Yeah, so
flop.
they're probably not. I mean, I guess if I made it like 25, they would probably all fold. Maybe. Do I
But
want them to fold?
I would say actually what you really want is to see them overcall here and
Yeah.
then have position with a really strong hand. So I would prefer to put it to like a really uncomfortable spot for their stack, to where if you make it like if they're trying to call you, you're probably going to get at least one caller.
Mhm.
I would say if you made it like $20 and got 2 callers here, you're looking at a $65 pot, and they're going to have those shorties are going to have a 1-to-1 SPR.
Right.
And now you just get to bully them like anytime you have anything reasonable on the flop. If you have like a spade draw, an ace, or a king, you can just like make it miserable for them. So I would probably go on that $20 side. What do you think, Jess?
I mean, yeah, I definitely would go higher than 15. But one of the challenges we have here is that, when you bump it up to 20, and like you said, if the SPR turns out to be, 1-to-1, you have two, say we have 2 callers, also at 1-2, people aren't going to fold if they hit middle pair or better.
Right.
So you have to be aware of like, I would pay attention to when the flop comes. I'd be watching them and kind of how their mannerisms, because like it's easy to be like, all right, I mean, it's sort of a difficult spot when you have multiple callers. If you get one caller, then I think it's different. Like but then I think I agree, you kind of would have to make it more than 20 to get one caller, or they all fold, but you have good equity, you have a suited hand, so well, we can, yeah. So anyways, I'm fine with 20 or
that was kind of my thought. I think if the ace king were unsuited, my intention would have been to go bigger. But I thought I don't really mind if there's lots of people, in that there's better chances of, flush over flush, or let's say we both hit a ace, right? Say we make trips or something. My trips are better than their trips.
Yeah, but I think like I was thinking about this. I've been thinking about this a lot with PLO. Like you want more players in there when you hit the flush, when you hit the absolute nuts,
right?
But you really don't want more players in there when you hit your ace or your king.
Right. Just like one pair. Yeah.
Right. And so you're fine either way. You have the potential, like they can call you with queen jack of spades, right? And you can flush over flush and take all their chips. But I would tend to prefer to try to get things in a scenario where you're heads up, or maybe you're 3 ways at the worst. I don't want to invite a bunch of players. I don't want to see the flop 5 ways, because now even when you flop your ace, you've allowed so many players to see that there's a decent chance someone's hit a set or a 2 pair or whatever, and your hand is super. It's just very exposed at that point. So
and this could be the source of the problem for this hand.
Okay.
So anyway, so I end up getting 5 callers.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say too, like you're a good player, and if you get like 5 callers at 1-2, I mean, I think you know how to maneuver that. You're not just like, well, I think if somebody's like shoving all their chips in,
yeah, but like really quick, just sorry, not to shoot down your thought. I think you're right. He can navigate well, but your return on your investment is actually way worse when you put $15 out and face 5 opponents versus you put 20 or 25 and face 1 or 2. Like you have a way better return on the chips that you're putting into the pot by reducing the field. So
totally agree.
Yeah.
And you can still get snagged. You're like, oh, I got some backdoor. Like there's still things that could happen that you kind of throw money away. But yeah, definitely. Like,
Okay, so we found ourselves like waist deep, nipple deep in a swamp here. What are we? Tell us about the flop.
So the flop is not bad. King of diamonds, 9 of hearts, 4 of diamonds.
King of diamonds, 9 of hearts, 4 of diamonds.
Yep.
Okay.
Ooh.
Everyone checks to me.
Yeah, I mean, Jess, I'll let you speak first. I know what I'm doing, but what do you think?
Okay, so if we got 5 callers of 15, we're at 90 in the pot, 90-ish. And there's some people that have like, I guess, 80-ish.
And some people have me covered. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's interest. I mean, you hit top pair, top kicker. There's 5 people. You get more confused if you let a free card go. So you have to bet. It's just like, how much do you bet? Do you kind of, all of the diamonds you want to make them pay? Or, like, is it sort of like, well, if I lost, I lost, and you're going to bet big, but then who else will call? I guess King, Queen, King, Jack, King 10 will call you. So I guess I would bet, I don't know. I guess I would bet, I default to half pot because I don't know exactly how much. And if I want to, I mean, of course you could shove it all. I mean, no, wait, the guy has 1,000, I guess he said.
Yeah. There are some people that have me covered. There's like a guy
So I
in the
guess I go
pot that
half
has like
pot and
$1,000.
yeah.
Okay,
half pot.
Jess, really quick though. Let's say like your middle position here with you limped pocket 4s. What are you gonna do when it gets to you in this scenario?
Well, I mean, if I'm being honest, the button is the one that open raised,
Yep.
and it's Tom, and like a king
Yeah.
high flop.
Yeah.
And what am I, I'm sweating the diamonds, but that's about it. So I mean, if it was
Right.
me, I would just check. And if
Exactly.
he checks behind, it's like, okay, well, he just really, had ace queen or, some jacks or something and just missed. And then I'm gonna on the turn, I'm going to kind of go at it.
Right. He's like, you're going to smoke him if he bets, right?
Right.
So in my opinion, there's plenty of hands that can pay you off on later streets, but I think you'll get called by diamonds, you'll get called by sets, you'll get called by all kinds of things that are going to beat you, but then you don't know where you are by the turn. And I would almost rather check here, keep the pot under control. You have position, get some more information on where you're at before I do anything with my chips. Because even though there's $90 out there, it's super easy for somebody by the turn or the river to have you beat. And I don't think you can push out anything that has sets, straight draws, flush draws. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess the straight draws are like, it's a gutter ball. So those might go away. But I'm willing to take a card here and just check, because I think too often we're going to get check raised by even a flush draw and then not know where we're at, and then are we folding? True. So, but the other thing is, like, if one of these short stacks that's got a less than 1-to-1 jams on me on the turn, like, okay, now I can call because I've underrep my hand. There's a flush draw out there, but like if the flush comes in on the turn, you can just give up and save yourself some money, right? So
okay,
that's what I would do anyway.
Would anything change? Would anything change if the 9 of hearts was the 9 of spades?
No,
because then I have a backdoor flush draw.
Right, but you're not heads up. Like, you're just
if it was heads up,
you're just not in a spot where your backdoors are going to be as relevant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
I don't feel so bad. I actually did check.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I thought about either I should bet big and then let the people, like, say 2/3 pot or something, and then let the people reveal their hand for relatively cheap. Because, like you say, right, if I bet a 1/3 pot and 4 people call me, like, it doesn't tell me anything, right?
Yeah.
So, or check. So I decided to check.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the turn card was the Jack of Diamonds.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, then we're done.
Yep. Now we're done.
Right.
Yeah.
So I figured. Right. So I figured the main reason that I checked was I thought, okay, well, every card could be bad, right?
Yep.
The 2 of spades could be bad if somebody has pocket 2s, but I thought, like maybe half the deck, the ones are not so bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so on those ones, I probably have the best hand, but on like about half the deck, I probably don't have the best hand, and I might not have any outs. So anyway, what ended up happening at that point was one of the big stacks bet about half pot, and then another big stack called him. And then it got around to me and I just folded.
Yeah, I think that's
It's like like if you did bet on the flop and you get called, and then this diamond card comes on the turn, and there's like natural check to you, and then you see this and you're like, oh crap, and you check behind, right? Because you're like,
Right.
I don't want to.
Right.
And then on the river, the guy can like shove you off of like a lot of hands, right? I mean, like you bet pre-flop, and like unless you have even if you have pocket kings, he can shove you off. So it's like it's a tough one, yeah. I guess. I mean, I guess 5 callers. It's sort of like, I guess it makes sense to kind of do the more like kind of the more conservative check behind on the flop, because it's like it's 5 people too. I mean,
yeah.
But it's
I think
like
I think the other option
though,
is
right?
to bet, like you said, to bet extremely large and to be like to bet nearly full pot. But I don't like that because I really don't think you I really don't think you can. I think you're almost, no matter what you do with one pair there, you're almost like taking those chips and like you're never going to see them again.
Right.
So you might as well check and get more information and
Mm.
okay. So what was it flush over flush by the end, or what did you end up
I never
seeing?
got to see one guy.
Oh,
It was sad because it was sad and happy. The river turned out to be an offsuit ace, but then a bunch of money went in. Like guy bet.
oh yeah.
Sorry, how did it go? Guy checked, guy bet, guy check raised, guy folded.
Yeah.
I'm assuming my 2 pair was probably not even good.
Oh,
by that
not
point.
a chance. Yeah, not a chance. Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's actually well played. I think I would have played it pretty similarly, except that the sizing, I'd be looking to get more people out at the beginning. But that was your takeaway, right?
But isn't it kind of competing things, right? Because like on the one hand, you kind of want like some guy with like 6-5 offsuit and 7-4 suited to call you.
Well, you do and you don't. I mean, you want them to do that, but you don't want 4 of them to do that, right? 4 or 5 of them to do that. And when we make it too small, they're not going anywhere. So I prefer, when I'm playing, if I'm gonna get into a pot, to make it like uncomfortable for people. Like I know their intention when they limp, so I want to make it as uncomfortable as possible, so that if they're coming in, they're either going to like do one of the like limp raise, like, oh, I gotcha kind of moments, and I know a lot about their hand now, or they're gonna go, okay, like I'm gonna make the call here, but it's a really painful call. And now when we get to the flop and they don't have it, because so often people will overcall in low stakes games, miss on the flop, and then be like, well, I can't put more money into this. But they gave you so much money pre-flop that you can stab, and your C bets are really profitable.
Right.
So all right. So hypothetical. It's 1-2.
Okay.
It's 1-2, and there's some limpers. You make it 20, and then a guy that has like, I guess it's all about the stack size. Let's say he has 150, and he's like all in. He goes all in, and then it's to you with ace king of spades. Do you just kind of go all right, or do you just go with it?
I would. Ace king suited. I wouldn't with ace king offsuit, because you're gonna see kings and aces way too often. But like for 150, if you're sitting on $350, it's not even half your stack. And like, I'd take the roll, just because. Yeah, I will say it depends on the player, man. I've seen like the spazoid kind of player who's like, they're just kind of in there and doing wild things, and they'll shove a stack they'll get like tens and be like, and shove a stack. I'm thinking 150 at most games where I'm buying in for 500 or 1,000. But if you're buying in for 200 and they're shoving 150, then I'll fold. Oh yeah. So I guess it depends on where you're at. But yeah, if it's less than half my stack and they're spazzy enough that they could be doing it, or they've had a bad beat, or they're just getting tired of it or whatever, I'd make the call. So
I had something similar like that happen at the table. There was and I'm thinking I might do what this player did, but not with the hand he did it with. But there was this player that I see a fair amount, and there was this other guy that I don't think I ever played with before, and and he seemed like it was kind of like a reasonable player. And under the gun, he made it 12. And then this guy that I played with before, he made it 200.
Oh wow.
And the guy under the gun snap called him. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's like aces versus kings or something. And
Yeah.
no, it's like the original guy had pocket jacks and the other guy had ace king. And the ace king stood up and won. And then somebody asked the ace king guy, like, why did you do that? Which would be the question I'd have, but I wouldn't ask him at the table. And he
Yeah.
was like, well, I was going to go with the hand anyway. So, but I'm thinking maybe like as an exploitive thing is if the person is reasonably tight and you have exactly pocket aces, that they make it 12 under the gun and then you just ship the whole thing in. And they're like, you're not, and then they'll be like, you're not bossing me around, mister. Like, I'm going to call you with my pocket jacks. Because you have ace king. Of course you have ace king. Like, what other person would, like, what else could you have? Sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen that work a ton, but I have seen it happen. So yeah, that is interesting. There was a story. This reminds me that there was this guy that came around, may or may not have been a suspected drug dealer, but this was early on in my like poker years, and he would show up and he would like we'd be playing 1-3 and it'd be like limp, limp, limp. You know, it'd get back around to him. There'd be like 4 limpers, and all of a sudden he would make it $60. And people like it's just uncharted territory, and people were losing their minds, me included. Right. This was the like early days of my poker. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm limping too often to see flops. And he would make it 60. And most of the table would like roll their eyes and get upset.
What an idiot.
Yeah. And then to your point, at some point, somebody would be like, that's it. I'm taking a stand.
Yeah.
And they would just get destroyed because he would actually have the hand once in a while. Right.
Right.
And yeah, when he timed it right, and he was doing it with any hand he played, but yeah, it was surprising. So he would be in there he didn't care about the money. He was in there for like $50 to $100 pre-flop almost every time. And it was super annoying, but I think he correctly identified this table is so weak. They're so passive. If they're not coming after me, I'm just going to attack super hard.
Right.
And yeah, he was beating up the table like crazy.
So then I guess the way you'd counter that is you just limp like only premium hands and then wait for him to make it 60, right? And then it's like, okay, I am taking a stand.
Yeah,
400 or whatever.
Right.
Like, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah, it only works for a while, but yeah.
So
Jesse, you think you got something to say?
Oh yeah, you know me well.
Oh yeah. Well.
Like thinking. All right. So this is the 3-year anniversary show.
Yes.
Here we are. We did it. 3 years. I reached out to you about 2.5 years ago, October 2022. So when let's just take a walk down memory lane for a bit. When you
do it,
started this vlog, 35-year-old Sean, just with a dream in mind. Tell us, like, what was your dream at that time, and just maybe walk us down, like, what your sort of, when you think about this journey, and what sort of like kind of speaks to you when you kind of think about this whole path that you've laid out here.
Yeah, sure, man. I wasn't expecting to do this, but I like it. Well, I'm young, virile, full of strength. My body isn't falling apart. I don't have a broken back and a sore neck and a damaged elbow. I'm actually functional as a human being. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah, I don't know. When I set out, I think in my mind, I was like, man, I'm seeing these people. And of course, you're not seeing the like thousands of car wrecks that aren't making it, but you're seeing the few that get through, that like they show up. I'd been watching Brad and I'd been watching Andrew forever. And I'm watching these guys who are showing up, starting a channel, and then it explodes and it's freeing them up to play full time. And I thought, I'm already at a point where I think my hourly was like, I think it was like $35-$40 an hour or something. And I was like, I'm not there to where I could live off of this, but I could survive off of it. Like, it's not comfortable, but I could do it. And so I thought, man, if there's any way to like share this with people and it ends up providing just that little bit of extra that I can like actually make it, then I can play professional poker and kind of live this like dream scenario. So it kind of started there. And then the car crashed like 90% of the channels do. And I realized like, oh, you have to be good at this to like make it. You don't just get to like show up and get free handouts of piles of cash that like helps you become a professional, you know? So editing is hard and learning everything from the ground up is hard. And yeah, figuring out how to like sit in front of a camera without being too awkward. And yeah, it was a journey, man. But dude, I think that's why I wanted to have this. Is my favorite part of the channel. The thing that was not in my head was who I was going to meet along the way. Like I didn't know that I'd be talking cards with a guy from Canada and a guy from Texas on a regular basis.
Mhm.
and that we would be getting like 3 to 4 people watching the show. upwards of 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, the surprise, huh?
Yeah, sometimes I'll be watching Dude Perfect and they're like, yeah, you know, I'm team Tyler or I'm team whatever. And I'm thinking like, okay, there's probably a team Jess and a team Tom out there and a team Sean, but like the team is like 1 to 2 people. Like, the team is tiny, but anyway, yeah, man, what do you think? Because you came into this. I told you, I still remember telling you like, yeah, I don't think you should take coaching from me. There's way better people out there. I'm happy to do it, but I think there's somebody out there that could teach you better than I could. And you were like, what? And you were pretty persistent at that point. But
Yeah, you know, so before Cards and Capital is potato poker,
right.
and you know, so like I think, you know, kind of like Tom, like I like to watch a lot of poker vlogs, and then I see this small channel, you know, out of Idaho, and see this young kid full of dreams, and I bought in. I was like, this guy's gonna make it, man. This channel is gonna go like bonkers, you know, like it's like Corey Iring. I was like, and also like I was, you know, when the way you explained the hands, it was to me, it was very clear that you knew a lot more than I did, and I was like, okay, this guy, I mean, he knows more than I do, and I was like, I was on a good run, you know, at the lodge, and you know,
Yeah.
just like my hourly was like, I mean, it was a very small sample size, but it was it was like, I don't know, 70 or 60 or something like that. And but I knew, like, I was like, oh man, I'm not anywhere close to like where I want to be. And so then when I saw your channel, I was like, well, it's, you know, it's small enough that I probably can reach him. It's not like, you know, Brad Owen or something where I can't. And I was like, I just fully believe that, you know, like your quality of play was really good, and I just thought, yeah, he's gonna. And I only watch the ones that make it, I guess, because I was like, this guy's gonna make it, you know, like this guy's got it. And so I was really happy. I did reach out, and man, it was like, um, yeah, it was so much, you know, for me, it was just so much fun to like I would tell Jennifer, like, you know, I have all these thoughts and hands in my head, but nobody really to talk to about them.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so it was amazing. That's kind of my experience.
Dude, it was fun, man. I never thought I'd be like actually sitting here coaching somebody. And really your intuition, you said like me and Corey, you're like, both of these channels are going to explode. Your intuition must be a little hit or miss, because one of them was absolutely correct. The other was not. It was a flat tire away from bankruptcy, but that's all right.
Hey, we're still in the making, you know. We
That's
still
right.
can get there.
Still
What
up
have
and
you
coming.
used all of the money you've gotten from YouTube? How have you used that?
All of the money?
Yeah. About bubble gum.
Oh man. Yeah, I think Corey's like really making it and doing stuff, and I have not yet returned anything positive. Like if you think about the amount of time and money and all that stuff I put into this, I'm so far behind, it's ridiculous. But you know, eventually there's maybe a day where it comes around. But hey, I know it's 4:30. I know you said you got to get to dinner.
Oh,
I don't want to
wow.
hold you up, man.
That was
So
quick.
thank you
Okay.
so much for giving us a half an hour from your time. And where's dinner tonight?
We're going to Saffron. Hopefully, when I say this, there's not a huge drive out there. So it's a nice Indian restaurant that's like, you know, not too far away, and yeah, it's great.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for the time. Enjoy your time with your family, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.
Great to see y'all.
All right, Jess. See you
Ciao.
later. Jess is out of here, but now we get to bring on Jeremy from Color Up, who is one of my favorite people I've met through this process. Jeremy, how you doing, man?
Hey, Sean, what's up?
Dude, it's been a long time since we touched base, but
Yeah.
tell us what life's like in Reno right now.
Well, the snowstorm's actually about to come in. We haven't had any snow this year. Well, I think it's snowed once this year.
Wow.
So this will be our second snow of the year. It's supposed to be coming in, but it looks like over the hills here it's about to roll in. But yeah, Reno is Reno. You probably know more about it than I do, as far at least as far as poker and that sort of thing goes.
Well, so I know for a while, for those of you who don't know, Jeremy is Color Up on YouTube, runs a craps channel full time, and for a while dabbled in poker. And man, have you touched poker at all since the channel kind of went black?
No, I mean, no. Okay, so you obviously know editing for poker is hard. It's a lot
Hard work.
right involved.
Yeah. Yep.
And then just the whole playing and thinking through and then editing and then your thought process, it is a ton of work. So I stick to craps because that's, for me, that's just where I've done well. But I really haven't played much at all. I played online some, I think like once or twice since I stopped making the vlogs.
Yeah.
I've done like a live stream of me, playing WSOP here in Nevada.
Yeah.
But to go out, and I have so many excuses why I don't do the vlogging and do more on Color Up Poker, but they're all sad sack excuses, to be honest with you at this point. So I really should do it, but it's a lot of work, and I mean, kudos to you for sticking it out for 3 years and plugging away, and it can be very discouraging at times if you're like, you just get a couple of views here and there, and it's just, to keep doing it, you really have to have a passion for it. And while I love poker and I was getting into it, and I still would like to get into it again at some point, man, I just don't have the passion that you did to keep following through. So that is a huge key, is the passion for it to keep going.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. Tell us about, for those who don't know your craps channel, tell us about what's going on with Color Up.
Oh, it's just going. It just it's not. There was a period where it grew pretty fast, but now it's steadied out for the last couple of years. But you mentioned when I first came on, it's a full-time gig, so
yeah,
it pays the bills, and it just every month, because it's so big, people are like, oh, it must be a good channel. Not that it is or isn't, but people, once you get big enough, people are like, he must be doing something right. So they click on it, right?
Oh, sure.
And subscribe or whatever. So I got some steady growth, and, month after month, year after year, it grows a little bit. And actually, recently, this last year, I now distribute my content on digital television. So that was a big deal for me. And I just plug away. I don't do anything really different. It's just what I've been doing for the last 7 years.
And, well, tell us there is something that's different, and that's that you're doing these cruises. Tell us a little bit about the cruises that you're doing. I don't think most people know about that.
No, it's just that has been my focus for the last 6 months or so. A friend of mine said, hey, I go on cruises and I win free cruises through my craps play. I'm like, what's this about? So he goes, well, let me show you. He took me on a cruise, and as a guest, because he had free guests, and I played craps, and they gave me a certificate and said, here's another free cruise. And then I started in my email, I get like weekly offers. Hey, go on more free cruises, more free cruisers. So I found, and I never get offers from like land-based casinos for my play.
Sure.
And I just think it's totally different, where on those ships, for whatever reason, they'd rather have you on the boat. I don't know if it's a loss leader or what, but they seem to be really nice about giving out free cruises versus what they would give you and how much you have to play in land-based to get anything. So yeah, in like 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, maybe almost a year now, but I've been on like 6 cruises. I got like 3 booked.
That's awesome.
it's kind of crazy. So I'm becoming a cruiser. Now I will say I haven't played poker on any of them. Because when I started, I'm here in Nevada. I was a 1-2 player.
Yeah.
And the boats are always 5-10. But on my last cruise, there's some guys, and the table's never full. Like there's always like 4 guys. They're all older gentlemen. I'm always worried, like, oh, they're probably killers, right, or something. And this last cruise, there was they're like, the table was full. I'm like, what's going on here? Is this like a tournament or something? They're like, no, we just talked the team into doing a 1-2 table. And so the table was full, obviously, and people were standing by. I'm like, oh, I should get into that. And I never did. But now I'm kicking myself. But I might have to, on further cruises, be like, hey, what do you think about 1-2? Because I don't know, 5-10 is just out of my comfort range. But
oh yeah,
maybe I shouldn't be. I mean, I don't know if you've ever done poker on a cruise, but I'm thinking these guys are crushers, but maybe they're just guys who are bored and their wife's up tanning. I don't know.
I have no idea. That's not my world at all. But
yeah, it wasn't mine either until recently, and it's like a whole new world for me. But it's been fun, and maybe it is a place to play poker. I don't know. I don't know if it's a good or bad spot. I've never really seen anyone. Maybe that's a niche for you. Poker on cruises.
Well, I've heard.
I know we've covered a couple of niches with you.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Yeah, I've heard that the rake is super high on the poker game, and so it's not that profitable. But there's no way for them to charge you more for the craps, right? I mean, it's just the house edge is what it is, right?
Yeah. I never really thought about. See, that's how much of a beginner I am. I'm like, didn't even consider the rake, but yeah, I have no idea what they're dropping on those cruise ship tables. So.
Are the rules any different or anything with the craps where they would be more profitable for them, or is it exactly the same and they're just
the only thing that I've seen is they're really stingy on allowing the free odds bet, which most of my people I teach don't even bother that. It's just an additional bet. Yes, it's an amazing 0% house edge bet, but you're putting more table on the table and it makes your game more volatile. So if they're trying to save money that way, I don't think they're doing a good job that way. But other than that, the rules are completely the same.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
They give people a really hard time about making sure that the dice hit the back wall. No, but other than that, it's the same game. Some ships, the table's fun. Some, it's like I'm the only guy there at the table. It's really hit or miss. But again, I avoid the slot machines and I eyeball the poker table when there are guys sitting at it. So that's me.
So where was the best place you went over the last year you went 6, you said? Out of the 6 trips, what was the best?
I've done one out of LA that went kind of down the Mexico coast, but all of them have been like the Caribbean. So, they're all somewhat similar. Like, they're islands and they're beautiful and they're exotic and they all have their own little different things. And we've done scuba diving and swimming and snorkeling, or not scuba, snorkeling and just sightseeing and different things. So I don't know if I can pick out like my favorite. They're somewhat similar, but yet they all have a little difference. But I've been to a lot of islands that I would have never been to before, so that part of it is really cool. A couple spots in South America and different things, or Central America, and then I've got one in May where I'm doing the Alaska cruise thing. So
nice.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's different. But yeah, so as far as my channel goes, I do the same thing, but recently I've been talking about a couple cruises that I've been going on. Yeah, that's what's up with me.
Cool. Does your family get to join you for all these?
My wife goes on all of them.
Cool.
And then all my kids are now grown. My last kid went to college and she was on spring break or Christmas break or whatever. So we did take her on the last one as a guest, as a third wheel. But yeah, they're all grown now. So
yeah, cool. Well, does the poker channel ever resurface at some point? Do you ever think there'll be a day where you're like, all right, Color Up Poker is back?
Well, yeah, I mean, just little things like just you reaching out to me. We haven't talked in a few months, but
yeah,
it's just a matter of me doing it again. I mean, I have the time. you know, I used to be pretty busy, but now I've got a pretty regimented schedule. It used to be like, you know, you know, YouTube doesn't pay much. So once I went full time, I'm like, it's tough to, there's not much wiggle room to have like a bankroll to be playing. And now I don't have that excuse anymore because of the TV deal I signed. So I do have probably some extra money that I can, you know, a few $100s a month. I could certainly play poker.
Well, hold on. I didn't know about your TV deal. Tell me about this. What's the TV deal? What are we talking? 10 million?
Yeah, no, nothing like that. Nothing like that. But it was just as good or better than my YouTube pay. So
Wow, great.
yeah, it's a big deal for me, life changing for me, but not no one would be like, oh no, he's a rich guy, or nothing like that. It's just it's you know, I could start paying down some debt and making some headway financially. You know, as a YouTuber, there's no fail safe, there's no retirement funds or anything like that. So now I could actually pay down debt, and maybe I could start. You know, I'm only 47, so I have time to retire, right? So now I can maybe put a few bucks away. But
I noticed you checked your watch. Does that make a difference on? Or is it like almost your
I
birthday?
didn't even look. That was like a generic look. It was kind of like, I don't know, a thought process. Okay, it's 4:41. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, my clock is ticking for retirement. And my wife's like, let's do more, because free cruises aren't free. And she's like, more free cruises. And I'm like, you know, those aren't free. And we should be better doing things with, you know, I should be doing more capital, cards and capital than free cruises, which you end up spending, you know, a few $100s on every time. But yeah, going back to the poker channel, I would love to. It's work. And that's the only excuse, really. I mean,
I get it.
It is, especially with craps. There's nothing new to the game, right? The game's 100 years. The rules don't change.
Yeah.
And I've gotten into a pattern. You know, I post the videos. Everyone has little tweaks on strategies, but there's nothing really new.
Yeah.
Whereas poker is so dynamic every time you play. Every decision is complete. Like, maybe you know the number. It's like hundreds of thousands of different hands every time, which is kind of hard to believe out of 52 cards, but it might be in the millions, right, of different card scenarios.
Sure, including the flop and turn and river. Sure.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then obviously there's the dynamic of the different players and stuff. So facing against them is always different, where craps you're just playing against, you're trying to overcome the house edge and get lucky. And there's, you know, a lot of my craps players don't like to hear it, but there is no skill involved, right? It's just pure luck, you know. And what we call strategies is money management, really. So you can be conservative or aggressive or hybrid, but you're just subject to however the dice roll. And with poker, you really can, you need some cards sometimes, but you can increase your odds and you control your own destiny. So that's what I really love about it. So I don't know, maybe I should start dabbling back into online, and then there's no one who makes it on YouTube online only though, right? You got to get out into the,
I'm sure you could do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think half the reason people follow a channel is because of the personality, and we know you got that in spades, dude. You already got that part figured out. So if the content's there, people will come and hang out with you. So
maybe, but
let me ask you. So you told I didn't mean to make the whole TV thing about money, but tell me about like what do you?
I never shared that, by the way, but I will with you, since I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I don't need to know about the money, but what is the actual deal? Like, what are you doing with the TV deal?
Well, that's the great thing about it. I don't do anything. So it's one of, you know, those TV channels that are, they're on built into your TV. They're like on Roku and the Fire Stick and your Samsung, and you get like 100 digital television channels.
Yeah.
Well, that one of them reached out. Well, I've had them reach out to me in the past, and they all just seem sketchy. But this one reached out to me, and they seem legit. It's actually Sports Grid TV. They're 24-hour live sports betting. I'm like, okay, this might be a good fit. And they're like, so what do you want me to do? And they're like, we just want your content. And so literally all I do is take my YouTube videos that I put out on Monday and Thursday. I re-edit them a little bit so they fit the structure for commercial breaks, 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Ship them off to them. They air them. and they found advertisers, for the advertising spots and stuff like that. And so I get a little revenue. It's kind of like very similar to YouTube. I get a revenue share of whatever ads they run
Good for you,
on
man.
their TV. But
That's
supposedly they say it does like 100,000 per episode, which I do like 500,000 in a month on YouTube, which is great.
Yeah.
But now supposedly I'm doing like that per episode. So TV is like a whole different beast. And I'm like, I always keep asking, like, can I do something different? What do I do? And they're like, we don't know. We don't have like the metrics like YouTube. I'm like, well, YouTube tells you like 30 seconds in, you're not doing something right and it's crashing. Like, what's it on TV? And they're like, I don't know. We signed your contracts with advertisers and you just put up the crap, the stuff. And if it eventually people don't watch it, they don't watch it anymore. So I don't know what I'm doing on TV, but I'm there now on Sports Grid TV. And that's all it is. But it's been really nice because I just repackage my YouTube content and ship it off to them. So,
well, good for you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
CNN is dying, right? So maybe
I've
they
heard
should
that.
change the C to craps.
Yeah, they should change it to something for sure. They might want to get into the betting or make it a full-time poker channel.
They'll just broadcast
casino.
your stuff. They couldn't do worse in terms of like eyeballs.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
And you'd be willing to do it for a lot less.
They should try something.
Wolf
Yeah.
or somebody, right?
Yeah, I think I started. It was like, well, we're gonna give you a try. I think I was like 2:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or something like that. So they said I started out performing because it's all live. All their guys are live talking sports betting. And they said my channel started outperforming some of those guys. So they've kind of moved me up to a little bit better spot. I'm still not like, I think I'm still like, I might be like 11 or midnight Pacific. And I don't know. I don't even know my time zones or where I'm at, but I'm there somewhere. And then they do reruns and it's kind of cool. Like it's my family finally thinks I'm legitimate.
They've not thought that before.
No, not really. They're like, oh, he's on YouTube. Embarrassingly, they admit that I'm on YouTube or whatever. And for whatever reason, like I go, I'm on TV. It's not really TV. It's like these free digital channels. But like my sister and my mom are like, oh, he's on TV. And I'm like, oh God.
Hey,
so
you never know.
At least I've made some family proud, but yeah, it's not really, doesn't really,
That's funny, man.
I'm like, it's literally my same old YouTube stuff. It's the same thing. You actually get it like 2 weeks later on TV. So just go to my YouTube channel, but it is what it is. So that part of it's a nice little perk.
It does sound more famous though.
Yeah,
right?
it does. I got a TV deal, but
Jeremy from TV. Yeah. Not from YouTube. Yeah.
It's not like I'm on ABC or anything like that. It's I'm on those digital channels that, Yeah.
I like Tom's idea though. If CNN's not doing well, you just change the C to Craps, and it's Craps News Network, and you're rolling.
Yeah, they should reach out to me for sure.
Definitely.
Although I don't know if I would want to help. I mean, whatever. Maybe they should die off, and I don't know.
Well, hey, you want to talk a poker hand through with us real quick? You up for
I
it?
could try. I'll do what I can. I've seen you guys do this before and stuff, but I was such a beginner that, you told me like, I played so tight. I just wait for I have good hands, and then I'd play I'd play scared a little bit, but then you are like, okay, if you're going to wait, and then when you do have a good hand, just go aggressive. And that obviously helped me. And I am, statistically, I still have my stats left. I am a winning poker player when I retired. But I don't know. I'm not that strategic.
That's all right. Well, this mostly comes down to one decision. So this is a hand where I end up getting pocket jacks. I've won the last couple hands in a row. And I get pocket jacks, and we go to a flop, which is let's see, it's 6-6 queen, and well, Tom, I'll ask you. I'll ask you guys, but are you checking or betting on 6-6 queen with pocket jacks out of position?
How many opponents do we have?
We just have one here. We just have one.
And what position are they?
They were the hijack, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
I think this is a good hand to check.
Yeah.
So this maybe almost the perfect hand to check.
Yeah. So I do end up checking.
Wait. So are you checking because you're like trapping here, or are you afraid of the queen, or what's the?
Because I don't think I'll get anything better to fold, and I don't think I'll get much worse to call.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's going to be hard to
So
find.
okay, so
Like
if he has a better hand. Okay, see, okay.
a few combinations of pocket pairs that maybe I can get the call from,
Maybe.
and but like ace king would have re-raised me and stuff like that, and otherwise it's they have a queen, they have a 6, they don't have much. I'm out of position. Let me get some information.
See, that's my problem is I'm still too focused on my own hand of jacks, and I'm like, what are the chances they have a queen? Not likely, but
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, top upper pairs, or even king queen, ace queen, all that was better. It's still probably better than my jack. So yeah, see, that's my mentality. I got.
Well, I think you can bet it. I think you can kind of mix here and play it either way, but I chose to check it in this spot. So I check, and he ends up betting. Let's see. Let me double check my notes. I believe it was 30, but I don't want to say the wrong amount here. Let me double check what I had. So yeah, so I checked to him, and he bets $30
into a pot of
40.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Let me. I'll update the notes down here on the bottom. So, pocket jacks, and we're about $700 effective here. And let's
So
see,
you
flop
call.
is 6-6 queen, and bets 30. All right, let me add this up here.
Well, obviously the hand continued because, or else we wouldn't be talking about it. But
Yeah.
for me, like full bet, and there's a queen on the board and 6s, and I got jacks, I actually fold. So I don't know. That's where
Would
my
you?
hand
Okay.
ends.
Well,
Okay.
I would call once for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So
to see if you can. Okay.
Yeah, I under-repped it. He can be betting with almost anything just to be like, oh, it's a scary board. He checked.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can take it. So I end up making the call, and
Mhm.
we go to the turn. The turn is another 6.
Okay.
So I check, and he ends up checking as well.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'm probably
This is
doing
all
okay
good news
here.
for your hand. The
Yeah,
6 is
yeah.
good news, and
Yeah.
that he checked is really good news.
Yep. So
Okay.
now river is a 7. So let me update this here. So I've got
Okay.
this. Let's see. So we've got 6-6 queen,
6-7.
6-7. Yep. And the pot would have been at this point $100. Okay. So there we go.
Okay.
And put that back up. Okay, so now I check it over to him. Well, would you bet here?
I probably would.
Would you bet? Okay.
I think he's gonna call more hands. Like let's say he has pocket 8s.
Yeah.
I think he'll call you.
Yeah.
But he might not bet pocket 8s, maybe.
Okay. I think that's pretty reasonable to make the small bet, like, hey, I would call a bet of
not
this
big.
size.
Yeah.
But I thought what's excited to bet and then wants to slow down on the turn when the 6 comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking I don't think there's a lot of it is possible the pocket pairs are there. So I do like your line,
Or
Tom.
ace something. He might have ace 9 or something, and he might call a river bet if you make it small.
I was going to see if I could kind of let him spaz a little bit, like take a stab.
Okay.
And so I end up checking to him. He bets $300. So he bets 3 times the pot here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a question of
wow.
How often do you ever see this? Like, Jeremy, did you ever see this at the tables when you were playing?
No, nothing like that.
Yeah. It was such a
not with he checked the last two rounds.
Yeah.
And with nothing coming on. Yeah, there's nothing. Wow. The 7 doesn't do anything. Yeah. So no, it's weird.
Yeah, it was a strange one. Tom, what do you think? What are you doing?
I'm never calling.
Do we know anything?
I was out on the flop, but with the $30 bets.
I mean, it's possible he has a 6, and for some reason he didn't bet it on the turn, and now he's
right.
Although why he wouldn't bet on the turn, like I could see if he was out of position, maybe not betting it, but in position, he knows that you've already checked.
Yeah, right.
Right,
right.
Like if he's missing value, it's because he didn't bet. It's not
right.
because he checked expecting you to bet and then you didn't bet.
I was extremely tempted to call here. I ended up folding, And the reason I ended up folding is just because I've never seen somebody go 3x
Do this.
pot and
Yeah.
not have it. I'm not saying it can't.
Right.
Excuse me. But
have you seen him do this before ever?
no, I don't have enough
with
like
any
history with him
okay.
to like have an idea of what he would do. And so I was like, man, against unknown player, like I just have to.
Let me play devil's advocate for 1 second.
Yeah.
What better hands could you reach this situation with at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. There's not many, right? But
are there any?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So you're folding 100% of your range here.
Well, it had
action.
It had nothing to do with balance. It was just like
right.
I've never seen a hand worse than what I'm holding take this line.
Yeah.
And so if I don't think my opponent's capable of like bluffing me and balancing, then I should just be willing to fold basically 100%. That's not
okay, but then give him $10 to show you his cards.
That's what I should have done. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I should have.
I
kind of did. I was like kind of probing for information, like wow, $300. Like, you want to show the fourth six, or I said something like that to see if he would turn it over, and he wouldn't. So I probably got bluffed, but I've just never seen somebody go that big for the bluff.
I think he'd windmill it in your face if he bluffed you.
Because then here's maybe here's the other thing is later in the night the board runs out like 8-8-8, and he ends up betting like half pot on the river. And this time I have the boat, but I have the one on the board, right? So I end up being like, okay, I can't fold this, and I call, and he shows quads. so I don't know what he had. Like it's hard to make sense of it. But yeah, it was an unusual spot. Anyway,
we have a question. In your opinion, how important are dark sunglasses when playing poker?
Oh, here, Jim, I'll throw your question up. Let's see. I don't know, man. I don't.
That's the co-host, by the way, for my podcast.
Oh, really? Right on.
Yeah, sneaking in there on you.
Yeah. Well, welcome,
I started.
Glad
that was
you're
another
here,
thing I didn't mention. I started a podcast on. But anyway,
I would say at low stakes, you probably don't want to do anything that makes it seem that you're A, unfriendly, and B, that you're taking the game seriously.
So it'd be better to present yourself as just weekend guys having fun.
I'm very bad at that, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would I wouldn't talk strategy. I wouldn't wear sunglasses. I wouldn't I would not do anything that makes it seem like I'm taking this super seriously.
Yeah.
It's just gonna make people play better, or they're gonna leave. They're gonna be like, oh, this guy.
Yeah.
The amount of edge you get from covering your eyes, I would say 1 out of 500 people are actually attentive enough to care what's going on with your eyeballs at a low stakes game. And most people are just going to be clueless. And so, yeah, I'm with Tom. Like the image you're putting out there, if you want to intimidate people, maybe it works, but like that's not the tact. That's not the
I'm
tact.
I'm gonna be wearing some like razor sunglasses next time I go and be like, what do you have? You have to have a backpack, the glasses on, and
the hood over the headphones.
The hood's key, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you don't want to give out the impression that you care that much, and that you're.
I would agree.
Like you just want people to think you're in there having fun with them.
Yep, definitely.
So do you find that vlogging?
Oh, hold on. We have a great question for you there, Jeremy. Will sunglasses help at a craps table?
Probably about. It sounds like as much as they help at the poker table. I mean, playing craps is all about looking cool. So if you got, the drink and the glasses and the lady on your arm, I mean, all the better, right? The closer you're getting to James Bond. So I think glasses might be more beneficial at the craps table.
Nice.
So do you find that vlogging is a handicap a little bit because they're like, oh, this guy's taking it serious or whatever, or kind of in that same vein of?
I don't know what you found, but the biggest thing for me is I struggle to keep track of information as well because I'm trying to do too many things.
Mm-hmm.
And before I was doing that, I would just sit there and focus in on how did he look at his cards? How did he look at this? How did he place that bet? There was more analysis going on in my brain. And now it's like, okay, where am I at? My camera. Okay. My set. Did I get the notes from the last hand? And I'm way more distracted. So I don't like that aspect of it a lot, but
That's
yeah.
what I found was really hard. Is it's really distracting when you're like trying to learn the game. Like, I know I should be focused on more things,
Yeah.
but I'm sure that the other people, you know, once they got to know me a little bit, they're like, all right, he doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just playing tight, and they didn't bother them. But you know, when you know they're playing a guy like you with some experience where you're mixing things up, you're betting or checking when you know you shouldn't be to throw them off. It's probably a little more difficult to get a read. So
Sure.
yeah,
Sure.
I'm just curious how the phone at the table plays into that.
Yeah. Well, I know I need to let you go here, and I'm going to do that. But before I do, can I share one story about when I was hanging out with you and we were talking about the poker vlogs?
I mean, sure. I guess
you were asking me like, how do you keep track of your hands? Because it's hard to keep track of all this information, and I want to make sure I get it accurate. And we were discussing that, and I had a great laugh when you were telling me like, as of right now, I have to sit there and like record into a microphone and like whisper under my voice.
Yeah, I cover my
what's going on.
yeah, that's exactly what I did.
That's pretty funny. That's, if you want to have a tell, that's probably the way to have it.
Well, I did it but the thing is, I would do it with all the hands. So it was like, you know, I got a 7-2, and you know, right, like just so I know when I went back I folded. So it wasn't like I only did it with the good hands, because I think like you've got to where like you just subtly turn it on if you're going to be in the hand.
Yeah.
Me, I recorded everything, so it would literally. I don't know that it was that much of a tell, because it was anything I was involved in, even when I folded, you know. Yeah, I was talking into my hand or whatever, but that it is one thing that I really struggled with, is like remembering hands. So I literally just had to speak it into my, you know, I'd wear a hidden microphone under my shirt and just quietly mention it. But I don't know what else to do it. I don't know how people do it.
Man, I love it.
I guess they have great memory, but that's how I did it.
Yeah, right on. Well, Jeremy, I'm gonna let you go, man. Thanks so much for dropping by. Appreciate you, dude. Good to catch up with you a bit, and hope you get a lot more great cruises in this year.
Yeah, I'm glad you're still plugging away at Cards and Capital. Love to hear that, and we'll have to catch up again. And
I'm impressed you don't weigh 400 pounds with all these cruises.
Oh yeah,
like I don't know how you managed to.
You add a little bit every cruise, that's for sure. So there might be a cumulative effect, but you definitely gotta lose it after you get off.
Gotcha.
Right on, man. Well, thanks for dropping by, Jeremy. Take care, dude. We'll catch up again soon. All right. Well, we're going to bring on another man that we met through this process. The guy that I'm talking stocks with every couple days, and that is Paul. Paul, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yep.
How are you?
Still alive.
Still alive. So Paul and I have been talking stocks quite a bit, but we thought tonight we would just spend the time on poker more than anything else. But I have one more hand we can go through, unless, Paul, do you have one that you want to talk about?
Now we'll do yours.
Okay, sounds good. So let's see here. Let's go with, I've got this one that I think is kind of fun. Okay, so for this one, I have pocket threes. This one's a body language one. And I don't know if you guys spend before we even get into the hand, how much weight do you put into body language when you're at the table?
Well, it depends on how inebriated the different players are.
Okay.
I mean, if a guy just sits down and he's on his fifth hand or something like that, then you can get a better tell if there is one. And different people react different ways, when they have good hands or bad hands, when they're scared or not scared. Yeah. The most important thing to me is to talk to people continuously, find out as much information as I can so that I know what money means to them. Right? That's if some guy sits down with $200 and some guy opens for 7 in a 1-2 game and he tanks and then he folds, you can be pretty sure that the money means something.
Yeah.
So
right. Yeah.
You could take different inferences with this particular player.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing I'm looking for, well, Tom, let me ask you, what are you thinking about as far as tells when you're at the table? Is that something that's coming into your game much?
I maybe use it as a tie break.
Okay.
But the time of day I play, people are not generally intoxicated. So it's not, it doesn't really come up.
Okay. So for me, it tends to be the tie break as well. Like if it's close or if there's something really obvious, then I'm like, okay,
Yeah, sure.
I've got to lean into this obvious thing.
Yeah.
And the, let's see, it's Zach Elwood's, I can't remember exactly. The title's escaping me right now, but he talks about in his book of reading body language that you're really looking for people's level of comfort, right? If they're, to what you were saying, Paul, like if they're very comfortable, they look really at ease, or if they look really scared, that's going to give you more information than almost anything else.
Right.
So I'm looking for that, but it really stood out in this hand. So I have pocket threes.
Hang on, let me ask you a question. Do you think
go
it's easier for a person who is relaxed to act scared, or do you think it's easier for a person who is scared to act relaxed? Because we'd have more practice in life being scared and acting relaxed than the other way around, right? But on the other hand, it seems like it would be, I don't know, would it look phony if you tried to act scared and you relax?
I don't know. I feel like it's so rare that someone's comfortable and trying to act scared that's the few times where I've got it wrong is when someone is actually like they are gulping hard when they don't need to.
I try to look scared all the time. Seriously, at the poker table, I try to look. When I'm playing chess too, I look very worried all the time. Okay. And so that way my opponents can't glean too much from it because it just seemed like I'm a worrying person.
Yeah, I tend to try to have the same approach, and I tend to I know that if I'm really nervous, I'm going to gulp hard. So I tend to kind of do the okay, I'm going to act like I'm nervous, or just that same approach every time, so that when I have it, it hopefully looks the same as when I don't. But, Paul, what's your thoughts on that? Are you doing anything specific with body language at the table?
Yeah, I always try and look for vibrations in the lower part of a person's body when they've got a really good hand. Their feet just start pounding away unconsciously, and most people look up and they say, "Boy, is he scared." No, sir.
He's
Boy,
excited.
has he got the nuts.
Yeah, when you see it, they're moving so much that you can see it in the shoulders, a little bit of movement.
They're excited.
Yeah, right, for sure.
I think Navarro talks about that in his book, right? Joe Navarro.
Yeah, a lot of different people talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's the hand. So body language is going to come into this one. I would not have played this hand this way without it. So, but that's why I want to talk it through. I have pocket threes. There's an open from middle position to $20, and I make the call to set mine. Big blind throws in the call as well, and then flop comes down. Let's see. I believe I'm the button in this hand. Flop comes down 3, 10, 6, and the 10 and 6 are both clubs. So now the big blind leads out for full pot. So he bets $60. It goes, and he looks comfortable. To me, he looks comfortable. It's a very relaxed look to his body language. Doesn't look nervous at all. Isn't watching me to see what I'm going to do. Just kind of looks like he's happy where he is. Throws the money out. No big deal.
Okay.
Original razor folds, and it's back on me. What are you going to be doing here?
What's the stack size?
Let's see. We are. I believe we're 1,700 effective.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, we're playing 3-5.
Wow.
Here, I'll update some hand notes here. So we have pockets.
Wow.
We'll post it so everybody can see it. Yeah, weird spot, right? Threes. We're on the button. 1,700 effective. And big blind bets 60 into 60. Okay. So yeah, what are you guys doing when it gets back around to you?
So you're in position and you have bottom set.
Yep.
Okay, and your opponent looks comfortable, like he doesn't really care what you're doing.
And he just led full pot into the pre-flop razor with two opponents behind.
Right, where the guy could have all the over pairs, right?
Right.
He might not assume you have anything, but original dude might have kings, let's say.
Right.
So I guess you called.
I did not. I went for the raise, but would you call? Is that what you would prefer?
I don't know, because if you raise and then let's say he raises you back, I assume you're folding.
I think I would, but like that's going to cost me less than going
Right.
Call.
Right. But unless he thinks his hand, like let's say he has, I don't know, like, okay, I assume this guy's not an idiot. Like he doesn't think ace 10 is the nuts, right?
I am not expecting ace 10 at all here, but
Okay.
I'm not. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I would say it's very unlikely.
Okay, well then I guess raising would be okay, as long as your read is correct. Because boy, it would be really bad.
Well,
I would flat call, and I would expect hands like 5-4 of clubs, 9-8 of clubs, 8-7 of clubs, where the guy would be extremely comfortable if he knows his math. All right.
Okay.
Because if he's got 5-4 of clubs, even against your hand, he's still maybe a slight favorite.
Right.
I mean, he's got a zillion outs.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's got a disguised hand. And if he's a reasonable player, he would lead with that hand where he would be less likely to lead with top set, middle set, whatever.
Sure.
All right. He's naming his own price here in my eyes. I mean, and if you raise, you put yourself in the dilemma of, am I folding to 5-4 clubs? Am I folding the pocket sixes?
Well, that's the thing, right? You have to be sure. Yeah, you have to be sure of your read, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I guess based on the player, I felt like he was not going to be doing this with a draw. I have had a lot of hands with him, but that's a really good point, Paul, that if he has like the super combo, he probably feels just as comfortable. So I definitely debated raising. I definitely debated just calling here. I don't think I can ever fold, so I'm not folding for body language and one bet.
Right.
I made it 145. My opponent looks comfortable, looks at his chips, considers a raise, like he's fumbling, like he might raise more, and eventually tosses in the call.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, the spot is interesting here. The turn is the 4 of diamonds, and he throws $100 in the pot. I know that was exactly my thought inside when he did
$100.
I know.
Into a pot that's now what, about 350?
I believe something like that. Let's see. So what I made it 145, 355. Yep.
Okay. $100.
Yeah. I know. Let's see. It's 3 of hearts, 6 of clubs, 10 of clubs.
I don't even know what this bet means.
4 of diamonds. This is why I wanted to ask.
You're going to lose another. Means you're going to lose another $100.
Maybe.
That's awesome. That's 100 into 355.
Well, obviously you can't fold. So I guess call and see another card and see what he does.
I just felt like I don't think I can raise this, but here was the other thought is that like this is a small bet. Here's the tension. Let me just give you the tension.
Right.
On one side, this is a small bet, and if he has that flush draw, he's setting his price to see a very cheap river, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't have the flush draw and he has a made hand, he's already been raised and is now putting out a bet that's like, well, go ahead and raise this one. Like this is a small bet, right?
Yep.
And so I found myself just like stuck in the middle of, okay, what do I want to do? He looks super comfortable. He almost raised me on the flop when I raised him. I feel like all I can do is call here.
Okay.
So I just made the call, but are you guys ever doing anything different there?
No.
Okay. All right. So at least we agree on that one. Okay. So I make the call, and then the river is, let me make sure I get it right. I believe it was a 7. No, it's a 9. 9 of spades is what we have.
Okay.
9 of spades.
So 8-7 comes in, but the club's bricked.
9 of spades. Yes, the club's bricked. Yep, exactly. Yep. He now bets 100 into 555.
Okay.
So now what?
Okay. Well, this doesn't look strong, right? Because you only called on the last round when
Yeah.
this happened.
Paul, what do you think?
I call because your first problem is if you raise, what are you going to raise to? And then what are you going to get called with? You know, I mean, what on earth could the guy have that he's going to take this line and you make it 400 or whatever you're going to make it?
Yeah.
And he finds a call. All right. I just can't find the hand.
I know. That's, yeah.
Unless he called the original raise with 10-6 suited. All right.
Yeah. Or like maybe
that's
some
possible.
kind of 2-pair, 6-3.
Yes. Yeah,
or maybe he had 10-9 suited. You know, not clubs, obviously. And you know, now he thinks, oh, you know, let's test the waters here with my 2-pair.
Sure.
But you're not going to get called unless the guy's a complete snowflake. I mean,
I think you're probably right. And as I sat there, I'm just like, yeah, what am I? If I raise here, I wanted to raise. $100 just doesn't look that strong.
Yeah.
But he looks comfortable. He's taken super aggressive actions up to this point. I shouldn't say super aggressive, but he's been like his flop actions are very strong. His turn lead to me looked strong. This looks weird and weak. But yeah, I couldn't put the hand together to think what's actually going to call the raise. Okay. I thought maybe ace 10 occasionally shows up there. But even that didn't make a ton of sense. So I ended up calling and he showed pocket queens. So he had a hand he felt good about.
Okay.
Right. And the body language read was correct that he felt
but his hand was
strong.
Degenerating. And so his bets proportionally were getting worse and worse. Right. Smaller and smaller.
Right. So it was weird because he was like trapping me and his body language felt good about it.
Right.
And I was just like, this line's so weird. I have no idea. But
one other good thing about calling is he has to show his hand. Right. Whereas if you raise him and he folds, like you don't get that information. So you now know he's capable of playing this hand this way. Yeah. Which if you play with him fairly regularly, I mean, if he does it again, then at least you got more data than you had. You got one data point, but I mean, that's more than 0 data points.
Yeah.
It sounds like you were in a great game.
It was a good game. Yeah. Yeah. But I looked back at it and I'm like, geez, if I had just been super aggressive, this could have been a huge pot. Mm-hmm. So it kind of eats at you. Like, I want to look at it again. Did I miss something here? But it's nice to talk with you guys in here that you're going to play it a similar way and that I'm not losing my mind.
Yeah.
Because you're not giving him Broadway or sorry, not Broadway. You're not giving him the overpairs there pre-flop, right? Based on the way he played. I mean, he just called pre-flop out of the big blind.
Right. Yeah, he did. So he didn't 3-bet pre-flop with, which seems, I guess, well, I don't know what he was doing, but I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it seems strange.
Especially multi-way. I feel like multi-way, if you were going heads up, then yeah, I kind of like being a little sneaky.
Right.
But multi-way out of position, I don't think I like trying to like trap with queens or whatever, you know? Mm-hmm. So anyway, it was just a really unusual hand. And I found myself kind of scratching my head and being like,
right,
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this. So
a lot of people play jacks and queens there, you know, as a call, and then they feel more comfortable when there's no overcard on the flop.
Right.
You know, they're saying, okay, let's see what happens, you know, on the flop, and oh, my queens are good.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably his inner thought process on this hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I definitely have seen it before, but I think just in my hand reading, I eliminated those as like, well, it wouldn't make sense to do this here. Mm-hmm. But to your point, Paul, that doesn't mean that they're going to think the same thing and be like, yeah, this wouldn't make sense to play it this way. So, yeah. Anyway, kind of a surprising one. Paul, can I ask you a little bit of an investment question? Can we shift gears a little bit? Okay. So I was emailing you about options. For those of you who don't know, if you didn't see the interview, Paul came on. We talked options for a while, and I had no idea what an options trade was at all. And now that we've talked for a while and I've understood it better, I realize the power of this potential vehicle or trading option. But so I was emailing you, and we didn't really get the full thought. But I was saying, well, what would you think if I sold a put? So for those of you who don't know, a put would be like, I think I'm going to basically sell the option for you to force me to buy something at a lower price than what it's currently at today. And so I was asking Paul if I'm curious what you think. If I was to get, say, like 100 shares of a company I wanted to hold and own, I'm going to take a step back. One of the things you encouraged me in was, if I'm going to sell put options, make sure the company I get is one I want to hold and own, which I think is great advice. Because I was starting to dabble in all these weird ideas that weren't probably very smart. But then I was thinking this strategy through, where what if I sold a put option, I got 100 shares of a company that I want to own, but all I did is take the premium I earned from buying those shares, used that amount of the stock and kept it. And then if I was able to be at a break even or a higher price, get my original investment back, keep the number of shares I was able to keep, and then try to continue that process to acquire shares. Do you think that's a reasonable thought, or you were saying maybe that's not how you would approach it?
Well,
So
if you really if you want to own the company,
yeah,
you're happy that you got put the stock, all right?
Right.
Because you got put the stock for less than the value of the stock by the amount of the premium that you got.
Yeah.
Mm.
So what you really want to do is you want to ask yourself, okay, I got put this stock at $15,
okay,
right? And somehow you managed to get $2 in premium, so your real cost is $13.
Mm-hmm.
So in your head, you have to say to yourself, at what price would I really, really, really feel not sorry that I sold the stock? All right. So you want to basically find a call, maybe 6 months out, at whatever that price is, let's say $25. All right. And you want to sell a $25 call to someone that thinks that the stock is going to 50. All right.
Okay.
So maybe you might get $1.50 or $2 on your $25 call. Mm-hmm. Now you get both sides of the coin. You get to own the stock that you want to own. All the more better if it's a dividend paying stock. You also collect the dividends.
Yeah.
Until your stock gets called away, and you get the appreciation from 15 to 25. All right. Now, that's not a bad way to play your entire agenda. All right. You end up with stocks that you want to own.
Mm-hmm.
You end up with a price in your head that you want to sell them at, and somebody's paying you to do both things.
Yeah.
They're paying you to own it, and then they're paying you to sell it. I mean, it's the best of both worlds. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but I have a stock that I bought eons ago named Planet Labs, and I got put this stock, and I was deep in the hole, and I just kept the stock, and it went past $3 and past $4, and then I got this bright idea to, sell calls, and next thing I know, I sold $5 calls. Next thing you know, the stock's at $5.40, and my calls are in April. So I'm sitting there saying to myself, "You're really a dork." All you had to do was just sit there.
Yeah.
And but that happens sometimes. I mean, it turned out that with this space thing that they have, that everybody looked at Planet Labs and says, "Oh, this is part of that $500 billion space thing." And boy, are they going to get busy. Meanwhile, they haven't made any money ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it became a semi-meme stock. Now, this stock could go to, 42. Right. And I've sold it at $5 in April. So, it's not, this is not a foolproof mechanism here.
Right.
I mean, you can really feel like a moron. It's kind of like if you were to take in your pocket threes and raise the flop and the guy says, "Screw you," and he makes it 500, and you throw your hand away, and he proudly shows you the pocket queens, and you sit there and you say to yourself, "Boy, am I a dork." You know, I mean, it's the same, basically the same proposition. You don't always get it right.
I find myself saying, "Boy, am I a dork" pretty often. I guess it's part of the learning process, right?
It's not a bad thing to be a dork.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you understand it's part of being human.
Yeah.
You know, you're nobody's going to make the right decision all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is look at Phil Hellmuth's videos.
Oh, that guy never makes a mistake. And if you think he did, he'll be sure to tell you he didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or he'll complain to his wife and say, whatever his wife's name is, Mona, he called my raise with Queen 10 suited.
Yeah.
I still remember that video.
The Queen and a 10.
Can you imagine what that's like to have him come home from those bad beats and be stuck in a room with him and be like, I got to live with this person?
Yeah.
I'm sure it just goes for hours. Oh, man. Okay, so then that is really helpful. So if I actually get a company that I want to own, I'm going to hold on to it and I'm going to sell the calls rather than, I guess in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'll get the free stocks, I'll get my money back, and then I'll go sell more puts for more companies I want. But why not get all that premium plus the upside and then go on the opposite side of that and reinvest it? So
don't forget the market is still in a parabolic stage. All right.
Right.
We haven't had, I mean, every time something happens negatively, you know, the stock market goes down 1,000, all of a sudden all the buy the dip people come in and it's nonstop. It's just nonstop money coming in and preventing the market from collapsing. Yeah. At some point in time, something's going to happen where the buy the dippers, you know, see a dip more. And a lot of people that have been investing in the stock market don't have any experience in, oh, I bought the dip and now I'm down 10% more. All right. They just don't know how to handle that. And a lot of them just run for the exits, which exacerbates the decline. And that's where you make your money selling puts.
Yeah.
Because then the put premiums just explode. I mean, just explode. Because a lot of these people that bought the dip and now become afraid, they do a flip flop and they start buying puts. You know, now they're betting that things are going to go down, and that's a death spiral.
Right.
I mean, you know, you take the wrong end of both sides. You know, you just, you know, you're a bear when the market's going up, and you're a bull when the market's going down, and it's very, very, very hard to make money in that scenario.
Yeah. And
that's why a lot of the stock pickers, they have a great 10-year span, and the next thing you know, you never hear from them. You know, they're basically broke. I mean, it's pretty amazing to watch. I mean, it's a great game.
Tom, what was the chart you sent? It was the reverse.
Nancy Pelosi versus reverse Jim Cramer.
Yeah, reverse Jim Cramer.
Yeah,
it was incredible how well that performed. I couldn't believe it. Okay, so then we were talking, and you're really thinking, Paul, that there's like you have a bearish mindset. Is that fair to say of what's coming in the next like 3 months? 6 months?
No, I have a bearish mindset is what's coming in the next 6 months to 2 years. I have no idea when it's going to happen.
Sure,
but you know, if you just take yourself out of this country, which is like in a bullish bubble, let's call it, and you go to Europe, that's not happening. All right. I mean, the UK is on the borderline of imploding, and if you go to Canada, you know, until they replace, you know, their prime minister, I mean, you know, it's, you know, you might as well just pray. I mean, I don't know what else to say. The guy's amazing, just amazing.
I saw Trudeau step down, and but I haven't heard. I've been watching the news. I haven't seen a replacement. Where are we at with that, Tom?
The replacement.
It's not coming anytime soon. Everybody going to pony up about $250,000. Then they run like kind of like a playoffs, and the
Playoffs.
like, and then they're going to decide. But I mean, whoever becomes the next prime minister of the country, they're not going to last very long. So I don't know why these people want the job unless they think it's a parachute to getting on the board of some company where they're going to make a lot of money.
Well, the guy that's been doing all the interviews that is the favorite, I
Carney.
forgot what his name is.
Mark Carney.
He sounded really, really, really like the right guy to have in charge. I mean, he was rational.
Yeah, he used to work for the Bank of England, but he's a liberal, and they're radioactive at the moment. Like they're more radioactive with Trudeau than without him. I would agree with that. But yeah, like they've done a terrible job, in my opinion. They've done a terrible job of running the country, and I don't think the voters are likely to like just because you put a new guy in charge. It's going to be all the same people that are making the decisions, and a lot of decisions have been really bad. Like, I mean, Canadians are broke compared to Americans, but we pay so much more for our houses than you guys do. Like,
oh, Tom, I played your Mansion
Crack
Crack
Shack
Shack game.
Yeah,
and I only got like 60% right.
Yeah, it's incredible, right?
It is.
It's just like you're looking at these houses that are, you know, like a 1972 beater house in Vancouver, and you know, it's like 1 point back then when the game was on, right?
Yeah.
Those prices are like you can't get any of that stuff for those prices anymore, right? The original Crack Shack and Mansion was like 10 years ago. Those prices are probably double now. So you're looking at like complete pieces of trash property that are like $3 million, where you have to knock the house down and put something up, right?
So that's like San Francisco was.
Yeah.
Before they trashed San Francisco, that's the way San Francisco.
It's just crazy. And Vancouver is not San Francisco. I mean, I lived in Vancouver. I grew up in Vancouver. Vancouver is nice. I've been to San Francisco. San Francisco is way nicer, or at least it was when I went to visit it, right? And America's a serious country. Like Canada's, we're not really a serious country. Like, I mean, really, we're not. Like we're 1/10 the size, and we've got less than 1/10 the punching power. So,
but you have a lot of land.
Yeah, but most of it is you wouldn't want to live there.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
You would not want to live there. But yes, we have a lot of land. You can, you know,
and you know, I always wonder what would happen if there was simply a popular vote in Canada as to whether or not you wanted to become the 51st state.
My guess is it would be defeated for sure. Even with bad government, like a lot of people here. Okay, I'll give you an example, right? Like pretty much, if you ask a Canadian, they're going to say we get free healthcare.
Right.
Okay, and they're not going to think anything past we get free healthcare. Where like you think to yourself, well, how can it be free? Like somebody is paying for it somewhere. Like these doctors are not working for nothing, right? The hospitals don't get built out of like, you know, good karma or unicorns don't come show up and build them, right? So like, but like people they just think, well, we get like free stuff, and they don't really. A lot of people don't really think beyond that. So the other good thing, like kind of good bad thing about Canada is if you want to make a lot of money, like Canadians move to America. Like I have a lot of friends who they move to America. They make way more money in America than they did in Canada. But if you're like kind of not too good at doing stuff, you're going to do better in Canada than you will in the United States.
That's like, have you read Atlas Shrugged?
Yes.
Yeah, that's like Atlas Shrugged, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
that should be a must. That should be a must read in every high school, and I don't think it's on any high school list ever.
No,
I agree.
It's like it's the liberal nightmare.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what's funny is that book is we read like 1984 in school, which is, I think, good, but doesn't really paint the picture of like what big government is versus capitalism. And when you get the Atlas Shrugged, it's a big book, but when you get through it, you really just go, my goodness, you look at the world and go, wow, now I understand that. You know, it really sheds so much light.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, I had that recommendation for that book probably like 7 times before I finally went, okay, I've heard this too many times. Give me the book. I'm going to read it. And it blew my mind. And now I recommend it to people all the time. And they often say the same thing. Okay, you're like the 10th person to tell me. I'll read it.
Right.
So it's so good, though. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree,
but
Paul.
young people don't have the patience to read a 1,000-page book. All right.
Sure.
I have a niece and a nephew. I offered them each $2,500 if they would read the book or watch the movie, which was 3 separate movies. Right?
Wow.
And the girl got through 65 pages and said, "I quit." And the boy said no. They were both. One was 14 and one was 16 at the time.
What?
And
$2,500.
Yeah, how does that not work?
I was shocked.
That's incredible.
But it showed it turned a light on in my head as to how different, adolescent culture is in this society. I mean, it's like, kids just have no clue how hard it's going to get, when they grow up.
Sure.
To make $2,500.
Oh, and so easily. It's funny. We're having the opposite problem. I'm actually like, we're having to tell our kids like, okay, put your books down and go outside for a little bit, because they're just, I mean, they're not like big heady books or anything. They're reading fun like stories and fantasy and all that stuff. But like they just tear through them, and we had to. My wife was like, she sends me this picture. She's like, all right, I sent Titus outside a little bit ago, and my oldest son, he's 9. And there's this picture of him sitting on the wall in the backyard, just going, because he wants to be inside. He wants to be inside reading, and it got interrupted by play. And I'm like, I just never foresaw there was a future where I would have to tell my kids, hey, you're done reading, go play for a bit.
Outside, yeah,
it's wild. It's wild, but yeah, definitely, I would say not the norm. So
just have them learn how to play bridge.
I never even learned how to play bridge.
It is like, if I was raising a kid now, I would teach them how to play bridge. I would teach them how to play poker, and I would teach them about Fibonacci and everything else that they wanted to learn about life. They could figure out on their own. But all the lessons from games, right, and puzzles shape the mind to be able to be a problem-solving human being. And that's what it's all about, because every single minute that you're alive, you're faced with choices and problems and decisions to make. And if you don't know how to make proper decisions, proper EV decisions, you're going to stumble quite a bit. And sometimes people that stumble don't get up. They just they fall on the floor, and for the rest of their life, they're crawling around. And,
Paul, what do you think it is you get from bridge that you don't get from poker? Not knowing a thing about bridge, I'm just curious. What aspect?
Well,
do you think?
Bridge is now basically much more of an online game. Bridge progressed from being 100% live to 75% online.
Okay.
Right. And I don't think poker has come close to that amount of a transition. But when you play bridge, it's a social game. You're playing with a partner, and you have your own language, and it's constantly progressing. Your opponents have tells continuously, and every hand is basically an adventure. And there's so many different problems to solve on every hand, and there's so much math involved that at the end of a tournament, you'll have people talking to each other, and they'll be arguing about the math. That's how great of a game it is. And, like in poker, you're arguing about the math, and they go, "Wow, GTO says this," and conversation over.
Yeah.
But I mean, in bridge, bridge is much, much, much more like PLO, because with PLO, you have to make so many more decisions, and you have so many more cards to screw up with, that the good PLO player has a much huger edge than the good Hold'em player. All right. I mean, when people play PLO, and now where I play at South Point on Thursday nights, they have this huge Big O game where last night, I mean, Thursday night I popped in and they had 2 full tables with a board and they're playing 100, 200 Big O. All right. And the problem is every time that, I mean, the dealer, most dealers had no clue. You know, people would turn over their hands and it would take like 3 minutes to sort things out. Yeah. One hand took 15 minutes to sort out.
Wow.
Because they play a double board $50 bomb pot with every dealer change. And that is hilarious because on every one of these things, it's basically everybody's in the hand just gets it all in. All right.
Wow.
So, I mean, they're playing anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 deep. And so now you have it all in where there's like $15,000 in the middle of the table. Oh and God. It's 3 ways. And the dealer's trying to figure out, you know, well, how many ace deuces do we have? I mean, and they're trying to figure out how to split the pots. Yeah. And it's a nightmare for the dealers, an absolute nightmare.
Well, how do you, like, they must have to limit the game size then to even run. If you're playing Big O double board, is it 7 max then or something? Like just to have enough cards? Do I have that wrong? 7? I guess if you go 8, no, you would need 7, 35, burn cards, 2 boards. Geez, you would have, I don't think you could go above 7 players, can you?
Right.
Yeah, wow.
Right.
That's crazy. That's so many cards that are in play.
Yeah, and it's you know, I mean, and I walked in and every single player I didn't recognize. Every single player in that game, in both games. I didn't see anybody I could recognize. And
how often are you at the South Point? How often are you at the South Point? Is what I tried to say.
I try and get there 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay.
And I try and play anywhere from 2 to 5 hours.
Wow, and none of them are familiar.
Yeah, and a lot of the times I get up and walk around just so I don't get too stiff. Yeah. And I go pass by those tables on the way to get a cup of coffee, and inevitably there's some ginormous hand that I just can't help myself. I just watch, and I end up laughing most of the time. I mean, it's just, the hands that get turned over are just basically comical. I mean,
yeah.
Right.
So what's a pot in 100, 200 with a bomb pot, and they're going all in? What's a pot?
It's just whatever the 3 stacks are. In the bomb pots, they always get it all in.
Okay.
All right. It's hard not to get it all in.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
Because one guy, people when they play bomb pots, that's where most of the mistakes are made. I think there's a guy called PLO Professor.
Yeah.
That you had on, and I think he was talking about a bomb pot with pocket 4s, where the guy had 4-3.
Oh yeah.
And he had 4 king 9 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he ended up stacking the guy because the guy, he only had 4-3 for the top board, and he had 0 for the bottom board, and he just thought he had the nuts. So he just piled all of his money in there. Not knowing that he was giving his money away. Well, in Big O, think about how many one board really good hands you can flop. All right, where you don't have like almost 0 equity on the second board.
Yeah. Well,
now basically you're just sitting there and middling yourself. I mean, you're subjecting yourself to getting quartered.
Yeah, all the time, right? It has to be constant. Yeah.
And that if I was playing that game, I would sit there and play like a complete nit and just wait for every bomb pot. I mean, all you'd have to do is win 2 bomb pots a night. I mean, it's just.
Well, if you're playing 100, 200, and you're 20,000 deep or whatever it is, I mean, you only have to win 1 good bomb pot, and you've made a week's worth of wages, no problem.
Yeah. Well, unbelievably, the stack sizes are not that deep.
Oh, they're not.
I mean, people buy in for anywhere from 5 to 10, and when you do the math, that's not a lot of. I mean,
right?
That's not a lot of big blinds.
No, not
Right.
at all. Yeah.
I mean, that's 5,000 is 250 big blinds. But when you throw in the bomb pots,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, your SPR is really low. Yeah.
you know, I mean, on a bomb pot, usually there's a bet and a raise and 2 callers on the flop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So your pot is going to be $3,000 at that point, and it all goes in on the turn.
Right.
I mean, it's just, you know, the money's all sitting there and they're waiting for the dealer to turn over the river. 2 rivers.
That's
It's-
crazy. That's crazy. Plus, you got to figure out the low on the boards, right? So there's going to be pots that are just a complete and utter disaster.
Well, sometimes there is no low.
Right. I'm just saying, like, there's potential for there to be a high and a low on both boards, plus splits, plus.
Yes.
I can't imagine having to try to be in charge of that, you know?
Yeah. And on top of that, 90% of the players don't tip.
Do they? Oh, geez. At a 100, 200 game, they're not tipping?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's mind-boggling. The game I was watching, I watched it for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There were 2 players that tipped.
Wow.
Oh, that's horrible. When you're in for that, when you have that kind of money to throw around and you're going to sit there and just, that's
It's-
terrible. That's absolutely terrible.
But
Man.
that's the way the world. That's the way the world is in Las Vegas. I mean, it's just,
That's wild.
you
That's
know,
wild.
people valet park their $100,000 car and give the valet guy $1.
Wow.
You know, thank you for
Yeah.
guarding my $100,000 car. Here's $1.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, oh, I'm going to be sure to take very good care of
Good
this,
care.
sir. Thank you for that $1. Yeah. I can almost buy gum. Yeah.
Well, you've got a lot of stamina to be on this. You know, creating this content for 3 years. I mean, that's, you know, a lot of people. They do poker vlogs, and they give up after a year. You know.
Yeah.
It's like
It happens a ton. Yeah.
it's like, boy, is this too much work? Or
I think the biggest problem is the expectations when you come in are sky high. They shouldn't be, but you only see the success cases because all the
Right.
ones that are failing, the algorithm's flushing that stuff out. You're not
Mm.
getting exposed to it because it's not worth your time. And it's hard to be in the algorithm, right? Like that's what everyone's fighting for. But I think you get so discouraged just getting like, oh, this only got 10 views. And that got, when you're first getting started, you're like, I just put, 40 hours into this vlog and it gets 25 views. It's heartbreaking. It's devastating. And so you just look around, you're like, why did that guy get 1,000? And you don't realize that what you're putting out there is just a hot turd. You think you really did, you're like, I did something special. But eventually, I think when you just sit and grind, the most important thing I think I learned in the first 6 months was, yeah, I'm not special. It's not going to happen easily for me. That was good. And then somebody listening to interviews of the YouTube side and just saying, you don't realize it, but you're terrible at this right now. But that's okay.
Right.
You will improve if you don't
Mhm.
give up. If you don't give up,
Right.
that's what I kept hearing everywhere. Just don't give up
Mhm.
and you'll get better. And I look back at what I made and I'm like, there's times where I'm embarrassed to watch it because I'm like, and I don't go do it much, but like occasionally I'll like look at a clip or something and I'm like, man, that was where I started. It's very humbling. And yet it's coming along, it's very different now 3 years down the road. So
Mhm.
don't forget, if you didn't have the turds, you wouldn't be here now.
exactly. Yep. Boy, I made a lot of turds.
Well, okay, but to be fair, right? Like if you watch some show, let's say some long-lasting show, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, pick a show. The ones that last 10 years, and you look at Star Trek, The Next Generation, the first season of that, a lot of the episodes are horrible, like horribly bad. If you compare it to its peak, it's like night and day, right? The actors they're not really used to their role. The writing is kind of haphazard, right? There's no real continuity.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, these are people that are getting paid, in some cases, like millions of dollars to do their job. And still the result of their first efforts are often abysmally bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
are you getting paid millions of dollars?
We're close. Not
Okay.
quite.
So I can have a
No.
little lower expectations of you
Yeah.
can have a little lower expectations of yourself than those guys, right? So
Yeah, and I think because I'd played poker long enough, I had enough of that grind of like, okay, I know I was terrible at the game when I started, even though I thought I was good. My
right.
expectations were high; they got crushed, but I stuck with it, and I turned into a player who can, win on a regular basis. And I
Right.
thought, okay, any process, to your point, Paul, with teach your kids poker, teach them a few critical things, and they'll be okay. I just went, okay, like I know that I've been through that process several times, and that if I stick with it, eventually I will. I may not be great, but I'll see some improvement, and it'll be better. So,
Right.
yeah, thank you, appreciate that, and we'll see where it goes. I'm actually getting excited. I feel like 3 years in, I'm just figuring it out. It feels like just starting to figure it out, but I'm having a ton of fun, and the best takeaway, like I said at the beginning, I'll say it again as we're kind of wrapping up here. We better go, but the relationships have been the coolest part of this thing. Like I wouldn't know either of you guys if it wasn't for this. I wouldn't know any of the people we had on tonight, Jess and Jeremy, and the guys who couldn't make it, Adam and Jerry, and a bunch of others that I invited that were busy tonight. But yeah, the relationship side of this thing is what's really cool, and what is it's more valuable to me than having subscribers or channel viewers or whatever. It's just like, man, this is what's cool. So appreciate you guys.
I'm glad I got to meet a sane Canadian.
Yeah, Tom's a good one. He's a national treasure. They don't know it, but he is. Right on. Well,
I just want to say one
ahead.
thing about teaching children poker.
Yeah.
I think teaching children anything that doesn't involve binary thinking is going to be good. There's too much binary thinking in society where it's either A or not A, rather than like I said before, right? Like 60% A, 30% B, 10% is left to the wind, for example, right? But that's not what we get. We get you either have to be 100% in favor of A or you have to be 100% opposed to A. There's no like middling thing, and events are going to 100% happen or there's 0% and it's like that's not really the way the world works.
Well, right? It squashes creative thinking when you think like that, right? There's when you're like, okay, let's think outside the box.
Yeah.
Like kids are told that, but then they're told the box is option A and outside the box is option B. It's like, no, like there's two that are in the box and you got to get out here somewhere and explore, and you might find something else. So yeah, definitely. No, that's a great point. And I know I've talked about it before, but playing the game Magic the Gathering, it was like I think that was the first point, to your point, Paul, where you said bridge is like, you just have these discussions about what could we do? What could have happened? That game had a very similar vibe where we'd play a bunch of games and then we'd sit for like almost an hour and we'd be like, well, what if we did this? And what if this changed? And how would that affect this? And you could just have all these potential, possibilities that would go on forever. And so I think that really stretched my brain to where when I got into poker seriously, I would be in a hand and analyze a lot better than I did before I started playing that game, so yeah, but it's so good for life. Yeah. That's a really good point, Tom. And wouldn't you say chess, even though chess is like a very straightforward game, like you constantly have to be thinking options and options and options and options and options.
And the other thing is most people think most positions humans are capable of coming to some kind of conclusion, but really what you come to is most of the time is this seems like it's probably good.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's all you can do. Like it seems like it's probably good, right? And so you could get to you could have missed something on the way to the end point, or you get to the end point and it's not good.
Yeah.
Right.
I appreciate that you say that, because as somebody who I love chess, but I'm not very good. So for you to have studied it your whole life and still feel that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised to hear it a little bit, but that's cool to hear.
Yeah. It happens all the time. It's just there's too many possibilities, right? So you just, it looks like something that is good, but then some detail makes it so it's not good. Or you get two positions that look almost exactly the same, and like you do plan A in position A, and if you try to do plan A in position B, it's going to blow up in your face.
So you're coaching students with this all the time.
Yeah.
How do you coach that? How do you coach, like, get into a spot that feels good or seems good?
Well, I would say most of the time, I mean, it's going to be like most things, right? If something is super complicated, the best way to teach it is to divide it into smaller pieces. So if you're teaching someone math or poker or anything, right, you divide it into simpler pieces, and then we try to put the pieces together in a way that makes sense.
Okay.
Right. Start from the general, like I use the example with my students, like we're going to describe an elephant, right? If you're going to describe an elephant, like how would you describe an elephant, right? So you start with the biggest features, right? Like it's a huge animal. It's got 4 enormous legs. It's got tusks. It's got a big trunk. You're not gonna say stuff like, it's got eyebrows. Like this elephant has that's gonna be way late in the game of things that you're gonna describe it with, right? So you start with the big picture stuff, and then as you get better, you can fill in the smaller picture stuff. I think we're the same way with almost anything.
Oh, that's really cool. I haven't heard that analogy, but that's a great way to express it. Yeah. Huh. It has eyebrows. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, like, so your big picture stuff, are you starting with like structures and like control over the board and things like that? And then you move into more specifics of like,
what to do in this particular structure, what to do in this particular structure. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Different structures, you have different plans.
Okay. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Interesting. I find chess incredibly fascinating and so fun to play and so overwhelming. Like when I start trying to learn it on a serious level, I just feel like I'm drowning sometimes because there's so much information to know.
Right.
It's a great game. Well, gentlemen, it is almost 6 and we've been on here 2 hours. I'm going to get back to my family, but thanks for taking time. Paul, thanks for joining us. Tom, thanks for all your time. And everybody, thanks for hanging out.
Talking to you. Bye, folks.
Stay healthy.
Yep. You too.